Hi, everybody. We will be live in just a few minutes with all the feels. Here we are, together. Hello, gifted faker. Let's turn this around. I have greenery growing out of my head, my wreath, which I just put up, and a nice little candle there, which smells quite wonderful and gives me a real lift. All of my candles with the flickering burning, as well as the lovely smell. Hello, promise of possibility. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to take a little sip, and I realize that this looks like something unpleasant, but it's not. This in my hand to drink is a very wonderful natural probiotic, and since we say I have a gut feeling, well, this is going to help my gut because it is vinegar, just wonderful Bragg's raw vinegar with, as they say, the mother. And I put about, a good big tablespoon, maybe sometimes more, in a glass. And then I put either, if possible, local honey, and if not possible, a little bit of Manuka, which makes it a more expensive drink. But, and then I, let the vinegar, with a spoon, I let the vinegar dissolve into the vinegar, the honey into the vinegar, and then just top it up with water and cheers. And you too can have a happy gut. It's pretty much good for whatever ails you. Excuse me. Cough, cough. Hello, Rosette. Thank you for joining us. Welcome. Now, what should we talk about? All the feels. The first thing I could say is that I am feeling terrible anxiety about doing this today. And when I questioned myself, I thought, Pat, why would you be anxious about this? It doesn't make any sense, except for it kind of does make sense because there is such a thing as I'm calling COVID anxiety. And so at least part of my anxiety is because of the anxiety we're all in right now, in and out all the time and underlaying everything because of the global pandemic. So that is making absolutely everything that naturally happens in our limbic systems just a little more high load than it would normally be under normal circumstances. So I admit to you fully that I have had anxiety about doing my first Instagram Live, where the whole purpose is simply to give you some feedback from a place of authenticity and, in my case, knowledge of how our limbic systems work. And to some degree, what we can do about it, how we can, as my late mother used to say, work with yourself, dear. Work with yourself. Don't work against yourself. Work with yourself. So we work with our bodies. because, of course, our emotions are a faculty that is so important to us. It's important to us as actors. It's important to people who don't act but are artists in other forms. It's very important to the first line health workers and the fire persons and the police and everybody. We all have emotions. We all have reactivity, and that is a good thing. But what are we going to do with our reactivity? That's the question. What are we going to do with our stresses? What decisions are going to we make about how we act? And act in the broadest sense of the word act. What actions we take, what words we say, what tone we use. What, even though we're all covered up mostly by like here all the time, what do our eyes say? The eyes being the windows of the soul. Do you notice that people are more and more, they're looking into each other's eyes like this? Or just looking down so they don't have to encounter, either way, if they're on overload. Hello, I am not quite sure what that is. It's Acriando Valor. Acriando Valor. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for joining us. So I just decided that in order to deal with my little bit of COVID anxiety, which is also natural because I'm doing something I've never done before, and that even in normal times, everybody, every time you do something that you are not accustomed to doing, that you haven't done at least once, but usually a bunch of times, every time you do that, your limbic system sends some biochemicals into your gut that says, I don't know how to do this, or I know how to do this, but I don't know what's going to happen when I do, or any number of things that could happen, which will be absolutely unique and individual to you, but will definitely be a little bit of fear-based, a little bit of I don't know what's coming next. And that, if it continues in an elongated form and is added on top of our current COVID anxieties, that sort of ups the level of the stress. It also ups the level of the cortisol that gets dropped into our adrenals. And oh boy, that is really, really difficult for all of us. So I noticed this morning that I was just a little edgy. I was a little jumpy. And I was a little short of breath. There's nothing wrong with my breath. I got like the world's biggest lung capacity with all the Alba emoting emotional effector pattern breathing I've done, plus the singing I used to do as a professional singer, and then the certain amount of dancing that I did as an actor who sings and moves well, and all of that kind of stuff. So I thought, Pat, what are you going to do? So I made sure I got out and got some good, strong walking outside of my own environment, masked, of course. And I also went and I bought that. So there we are. A lovely wreath, evergreen, sign of hope, smells beautiful, and put it up so that it could be behind my head when I was talking to you. So that was another thing that I did, an action I took. Then I made sure that, better have a little protein. So I had a little bit of protein, and that was a good thing too. And then I sat up and I put my legs up above to the level of my heart. That's really good for a person to do. All too often we're going to either be lying down and we're flat, or we're sitting down and we're typing, on our computer, or, like this with our phones. And sometimes it's really, really good to be seated, but to get an ottoman, a nice tall ottoman or whatever, and put your legs up. And sometimes it's good to get them up even higher by lying down, and doing what you're doing so you get your legs up really high. So the point of all of this is for the emotional, for the feelings, to be able to adjust the things that you're doing so that you're assisting your body systems, all of your body systems, assisting yourself, loving yourself, because you are lovable. You are very lovable. And as incarnate beings, we're not pure spirit. We are also meat, and we need touch. We need smell. we need taste, we need sight, we need sound. And those are areas in which you can, when you notice yourself anxious, you can address that by, lighting a lovely candle, you know. And this is a particularly lovely candle, which has a birch and pine smell to it, with very natural oils. And I like to say it's my one vice. Now I have two vices, actually. The one vice, the original one, is coffee lattes. And I really like a good barista coffee lattes. Of course, that's expensive. And not everybody, but most of us don't have any money right now, especially if we are doing, as I do, a primary work that requires people to be physically in the room together, for them to learn it and discover it in the best way. So having adjusted on that to do everything on Zoom that I'm able to do to keep serving people at Alba Technique, a little bit of Qigong, a little bit of what we're doing here today, so that as questions come up, you can ask them and I can answer them. And let's see what else. Oh yes, I've distilled some of my classes in somatic sensing. The soma, as many of you know, is the body. Soma is body in Greek. So somatic is body, is embodiment, and using the senses. And how do we sense to do that? So I don't know. Right now, somebody's requesting to be live, and I don't know how we do that you want to be in it. So I guess we'll just ask Tracy Gaylord, and hope that I'm doing that properly. Maybe Tracy wants to ask a question live. Did you want to ask a question live, Tracy? I've never done this before.
I have not either, so I don't have a question. I just thought I would pop on and listen to what you had to say.
Oh, lovely. This is the first time on Instagram for all the fields. So, for your consideration, we're talking about emotion. We're talking about what our limbic systems do that I was going to say make us, but help us, because they don't make us, that help us to react to things in our environment, and what the kind of mental space we can acquire, so that what we choose to do with that very natural and unavoidable reactivity is something that is within line of our own desires and our own values and all of that sort of thing. So I think that I will let you not have to be on camera. So I hope I don't lose you entirely with this.
That's
so
okay.
I'm waving to you now, and now I'm going to exit out.
I'll sign back on if it doesn't work.
All right. Beautiful. Thank you, Tracy. Well, we live and learn, everyone. So notice how I had a little bit of laughter with that. I think that finding one's sense of humor about oneself is a chief coping emotional tool in life. And people who are able to find out how to laugh at ourselves, oh my goodness, that is, as my mother would have said, an ace in the hole. It's also very, very difficult to laugh at yourself when you're angry, or to laugh at yourself when you're too afraid. So give yourself a pass. Notice that if you're in a situation and you have absolutely no sense of humor, this is a good thing to mention to everybody. If you notice that you have no sense of humor, then you know that you are either limbically, brain emotion triggered by something that is real in you, and COVID anger too. So know that it's real. And if you've lost your sense of humor, that it's almost certainly either a bit of sadness, a bit of anger, irritation, frustration, and or fear, anxiety. And so give yourself a break. do something very, very good for your body before you act out of your limbic reactivity towards somebody else. Because it's almost never a good thing to take action out of that kind of a cocktail of fear, anxiety, and anger. Because we have a tendency as human beings, this is all of us, even those who know how to manage their emotions as well as I do, and who would be an A++ in emotional intelligence. It's still got to be worked at all the time, because other people feel with their gut. And this is where we started, of course, with my talking about vinegar, honey, and filtered water helping the probiotics in the gut, because we have gut feelings, and that's literal. I mean, who knew? How long has that been a saying, that somebody has a gut feeling? Well, a lot longer than anybody knew about neurochemicals, that's for sure. I mean, it just shows that a lot of the old sayings and the old cliches, that there's wisdom in them, even if they didn't yet have the specific knowledge of how it's so. But our gut bacteria is relational within the gut. And it's also wonderfully one of the ways that we read other people. And a lot of it comes through the eyes. The other facial muscles were a lot of it too. So we're missing that right now with the masking. And that is, I think, going to be very interesting for all of us. With the masking, how do we read people? Well, tones of voice are going to become more and more important too. So that if I'm feeling slightly annoyed with you, you see the change in my eyes? You see they like harden up a little bit? And I look like I'm a little bit aggressive. And so in the other person to whom I'm speaking, their gut is going to respond with, well, so much for her. I'm not going to do what she wants me to do. Why should I? So the tone of voice, well, mind your tone of voice. Mind, as the Brits would say, which I think is a wonderful way of saying it. Mind. Be aware of. That is a beautiful and important thing to notice. So gut feelings, we've got them. We're going to have it. I've had a number of people say to me, Pat, I'm so reactionary right now. I'm reactionary. And I want to bring that up in this little discussion. Reactionary means hearkening back to something historical. What the word that we want is reactive. I am reactive to what you just said to me. And so notice when you're saying to people, if you're feeling volatile, things are just coming up and they're coming up constantly, and you kind of don't know what to do with the information. You're just feeling, and the overwhelm, oh my Lord, the overwhelm for all of us is so frequent. So patience, people, with yourselves, with your own reactivity. So I am seeing here that the gifted faker is saying something. Gifted faker, thank you. Gifted faker says, I've noticed that people have been using their eyes more with masks. Yes, as we brought that up. Pre-masks, when people make eye contact, they would typically make a small smile of greeting the person. However, I have noticed, says the gifted faker, now people widen their eyes as a way to acknowledge the other person in greeting. It's very interesting from an Alba emoting and an Alba technique standpoint. Yeah, gifted faker, it really, really, really is. I think we can all be more aware of what people's eyes are doing, and perhaps even create a new default for ourselves. There's two ways to open your eyes up. One would be if I'm startled suddenly, and I think there's a little bit of that like tension in the eyes sometimes, because we're so afraid often of the other person right now, because we don't know if they got COVID, and we know that we can't like see all of them, and we're not as reading as well as we're accustomed to. So sometimes the eyes they're a little bit like that. But if they're just opening up, like that, when it's more relaxed, and a more relaxed widening of the aperture of the eye, then that's I'm open to you. I'm open to you. I want to communicate with you. And you notice that, golly, I should have had a mask here for this, for the purposes of this. We'll use a Kleenex. So if I'm here and I go, or I put my eyes, crinkle them up right here, and if I press up a little bit here, then you know that I'm paying attention to you, and I'm happy to be paying attention to you, and I'm really, really there with you. Notice that? So that would be use of Alba emoting emotional effector patterns that I'm doing in quite a mix. But if we what was it? Oh golly, she just hosted, I'm trying to think of the name of the actor and the model. She's actually more of a model. Tyra Banks. She just hosted Dancing with the Stars. And she, I think, coined a phrase called smize, and smiling with your eyes. And in order to do that, you need to take the muscle at the top of the cheekbone and the eyes here, and it's what creates crow's feet, of course. Here we go. It's what creates the lines here as we age. But those are lines we want. Those are good lines. Those are lines like we deserve those lines. They're good. And with the masks, oh my goodness, it just gives support to each other. As, what is the word that Pope Francis, accompaniment. It empowers us to be accompanying people without doing a doggone thing except smiling at them. Tilt your head a little bit, smile at people behind your mask. I'm doing a lot of nodding. I'm finding that, if I'm in a trajectory walking, I'm in New York, if I'm in trajectory walking and I'm walking fast, I'm trying consciously more frequently, because we're all so starved for connection, to, if somebody is walking at me this way, I'll go, I'll just smile a little with my eyes and I'll nod my head. And the looks I get are, and then they go. I've never had a bad reaction ever nodding my head to someone like that or like this. And what I'm doing for myself limbically, I just thought of this. I was doing this thing and I didn't think of the wonderful ramifications of it. What I am doing is, because of the up and down of the head, the yes, the yes to me, the yes to the other person I'm nodding at, the acceptance of that, it triggers a little bit of cerebral fluid that will go up into my brain. And that that is relaxing. That helps a person. So that is something you can do for yourself. And it'll keep you, from being here. I'm pushing everybody else out. I'm on my trajectory. I'm on a straight line. Take a breath, everybody. Even with the mask, we can acknowledge each other. A little nod. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, lovely weather we're having. Whatever, you will be hearing yourself speak. You will be going outside of yourself toward another with the good intention of serving the other person, which always serves you. When you serve another person, with a good intent, you're always serving yourself, actually even more. It just seems to be the cosmic, wondrous reality of it. Oh, I just noticed. See this? Of course, it's good. No, it's not going to be backwards here. Ho to the third power. Ho, ho, ho! Ho, 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 friend had these made up and gave this to me, and I scarfed 3 of them. So I've been hanging them. I've been depending them over my lights so that they hang down in the lampshades, and that has been, a lot of fun over the past few years. So thank you for this, Walter Tinnis. It was Mr. Walter Tinnis who gave that to me. I'll put it up here where you can see Ho to the 3rd power. All right, any questions, any thoughts, any observations that you have about your feelings, the feelings of others, feelings in general, the hatred of feelings, whatever. It's all good. It's all good. Your feelings are not your enemies. And stress is natural. So there's a lot of it this year, particularly. Will you go home, for those of you who observe Christmas? Will you go home for Christmas, especially if it entails traveling? How long will you stay? Will you mask when you go? I mean, when you're in someone else's home, like the parental home or the grandparental home. All of these things, and it's risk assessment right now. It really is. And I think that your feelings must be taken into consideration. Your feelings, you must observe them. You must notice if you're frightened of traveling. You must assess the risk to you and a risk to those with whom you live and the risk to those whom you would be visiting. And then make excellent decisions as to what you need to do. Because some people, they're children, they're not able to assess the risks, so you have to assess them for them. The extremely elderly, they're not able to assess the risks in the same way. I went to visit my 93-year-old uncle physically, went to see him right after his birthday in November. And do you know, the first thing he said to me when I came in, of course, masked, and I said, "Hello, Uncle Bob." And he said, "Take that damn thing off your face. I can't see you." And I said, "Okay." And I went across the room, and I sat down, and I took the mask off. And he was fine with it, But, the elderly, like all of us, they've never had anything like this before. The thing that I'm most emotional about with this right now is an annoyance, because there's a lot of COVID anger with this. So I heard a commercial just before I logged on live here, and it said, "Hand sanitize." And I thought, hand sanitize, damn it. No, we need to be telling people to wash their hands. We need to teach the little ones to wash their hands. We need to form new human habits around the world of using actual water and actual soap and really washing the hands. So that would be a real example of the generalized COVID anger, the irritability that we're finding, the snappishness, the lashing out stuff that we're all doing. And it is because we don't like the limitations that are placed on ourselves. And sometimes it has an underpinning of the COVID anxiety. We're not making enough money. We don't know what's going to happen next, all of those things. And it's fine. It's fine. It has to be fine because it's what is. And we need to stay with reality. We really do, with what's happening. Otherwise, we can't make proper risk assessment. So it's all very, very good. It's all good. And the very fact that you're here, I congratulate you. I congratulate you that you are open enough. And let's face it, you're smart enough to, be sitting and consulting with someone who might actually know more than you do about feelings and about emotions. And I can assure you that I do. Sometimes I think if I read one more neuro study, I'm going to go stark raving mad. But it all kind of goes into the excellent understanding basket and is then put at your disposal. Science is not God. But God does love that we're invoking silence. Silence? Haha. Whoa, now there's a little Freudian slip. Wonder where that came from, silence. I think I'm thinking of all of the people who are doing cacophony of things, loudness, oh, such loudness. What they actually need, if they only knew it, was a little quiet, a little. Allow your breath some time to get down lower in the body, for the lungs to open your arms out. Let the lungs expand, stretch up, stretch out, smile, come forward a little bit. All of these are very specific physical things that we can do to assist ourselves. So before we sign off for today, do let me know whether you got something out of this. Let me know if it triggered thoughts that you have, questions that you would have, and whether you'd like me to do this again. I would be very willing to do it next week or the week after during the holidays. If you come up with thoughts and musings, go ahead and muse. I would love to read your musings out in another Instagram Live. But before I let you go, let us breathe together. Let us open our eyes and straighten our spines and let the shoulders be and the chest be and the feet be on the floor. And breathe through your nose and out through your mouth. Put the head back in through the nose and out through the mouth. Another in through the nose and out through the mouth, bending forward. And in through the nose with the eyes closed and out through the mouth. And already we start to be more centered in ourselves. Seeing myself, I see my colors a little better here. I feel that the breath is a little deeper in my body. I feel that I'm breathing more fully. So please, I give to you in through your nose and out through your mouth. And allow yourself to do that for yourself. If that particular approach begins to interest you, I will be teaching 5 sessions of somatic sensing, which you should take all 5 because they are layered and they're developed one on top of the other. I haven't insisted on it, but if you do decide to do this, go ahead and look at the website. albatechnique.com and look at things. But this is something that can be done on Zoom and can be done very, very well on Zoom. And we've all enjoyed doing it. And I'm doing it again in January, I think. And if you had any questions about it after looking at the website, you could certainly email at Alba Technique, and we would get back to you in answering your questions. But please, please read the website first. Into the nose and out through the mouth. And thank you for joining me at Alba Technique with all the feels.